Cameron Crowe and Zach Luce here. We are going to talk about Zach's Coal Valley experience, but first things first, some context if you've never watched one of these videos before. I wrote a blog post 2.5 months ago. Well, yeah, 2.5 months ago or so. And I was reflecting on my time at Coal Valley and basically all the things that I thought were harmful about that environment that it took me years, in some cases like 3 to 10 years, to realize kind of how harmful some of those things were. There were things that I was totally cool with when I graduated. I didn't realize there were issues here, but as I got more life experience, exposure to different ideas, I got some new perspective that I didn't have, and I felt like that perspective was worth sharing. Just getting it out there, getting it off my chest, and if it helps somebody, great. The reaction to this post was instant and large. Lots of people messaged me that were like up in arms. How dare you say something bad about the school? I thought you cared about me and my family and our friendship, and you've just betrayed us all. And so I was getting that. And then I was also getting, oh my God, I thank you so much for writing this. I've thought this for years. I didn't know anybody else really thought this. And here's my story. And the stories were so intense and so much worse than anything I experienced that I realized that what I was blogging about was really just the tip of the iceberg. So I created a support group on Facebook for people to join and tell their stories in a private, supportive environment where they need to debate or defend themselves like they might kind of on the broad open Facebook, where all the where the majority of the people think are Coal Valley supporters. And story after story started coming out, and we realized this was actually kind of a big thing, and we needed to level things up. So we created a website called coalvalleyspeaks.com, and we started putting things out there publicly that people in the support group were comfortable with sharing publicly, because the support group is now actually pretty large. It's 153 people, but it's only, if we want people to learn from our perspectives, we need to share it outside of the people that are like, Coal Valley's great, there's nothing wrong with it. They need to be able to see some of this stuff. So we created this website and started posting interviews, and we've done, I don't know, this is probably like the 25th or 26th one now. And we started getting this stuff out there. And after a little bit of time, we realized it's great to get this stuff off our chests and really process and heal from this stuff. And people didn't really know they needed to heal from this stuff, but that was a huge theme in the support group, that I didn't know I needed to work some of this out. But then we realized, wait, half of these stories are from people that just graduated, or in some cases current students, and we realized the school hasn't changed much. So this is still happening. So maybe one thing that we can do is try to be a part of the solution, prevent some of these bad things from happening by recommending some positive changes to Coal Valley that don't require it to change its belief system, but use common sense kind of best practices that now we have the perspective and the life experience to know that those things can help. So we created what we called the joint statement here, and we did a lot of work. Over 100 hours were volunteered between all the contributors and the editors. And we categorized all these problems into sections here. And we used direct quotes from stories, and we isolated the themes, and we said, here are some possible solutions. It's not an ultimatum. It's not a list of demands. It's recommendations. We wanted to do all the hard work for the school and talk to them about it and see, can we work together to get some of this stuff done? Unfortunately, they have not shown any interest whatsoever in meeting with us so far. Nothing has developed from our negotiations, and there are negotiations underway. They just haven't led to anything. But because of that, we started doing some public demonstrations. So in a message of kind of love and caring, we went on the National Day of Prayer 2 weeks ago. We went to the school as like parents were dropping kids off with our sign that said, we care and we want to talk. And then we went back at a student's request. We went back the next week during the lunchtime so the students could talk to us. And that was a great success. Probably about 50 students talked to us. And actually, in response to that, Cole Valley, there's a post about this here, Cole Valley emailed the entire school family and acknowledged us for the first time in a misrepresenting and a belittling way, and basically said, yeah, nothing to see here. You may have heard about a protest, but nothing to worry about. So that was frustrating. And so that's basically the context of everything. So Zach, let's start with your initial reactions to this movement. What did you see first? Was it the blog or something else? And kind of what went through your head?
So I did you post it in February, I believe, like February 12th or 13th?
Yeah.
It was, I looked on Facebook and I saw this post that someone else shared, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of curious what this is. And so I read it, and instantly after I read it, I sent you that message because I was shocked, honestly, that someone would kind of call them out on everything, because I just never thought that was even a possibility. But yeah, I was so glad someone actually, had the courage to kind of challenge the school and what they're doing, education, religious wise, like all that, because it affected me in a lot of ways. I'm not really religious or Christian, more agnostic, I guess, but just the things I saw in the school, it really affected me on how I view Christianity as a whole. And like the education part, like the thing that stuck out to me, and I still remember this, it's like pray the gay away. And that stuck because all they taught was to love the person, love the sinner, I guess you would say. And we kind of did the opposite. We, put them on an island and ridiculed them and said they're going to hell. And it was definitely eye-opening. And I shared it right away after that. And I had a whole bunch of comments, and it felt great because I still have a lot of friends from Cole Valley on there in my class, and it felt like it blew up and people needed to hear it. Sent it to one of my friends who went there for like 3 years. And he was like, holy crap, that's exactly how it was back then. And he's like 10 years older than I am. So it was a while ago.
Wow. So then he's older than me. Because
Mm-hmm.
you were like 2 or 3 years younger than me. Is that right?
Yeah, I think 2. I graduated in 2010. So
Yeah, 2.
yeah.
Wow. So that person that's 10 years older than you, are they in the support group now?
No, they don't have a Facebook. I sent them the links and everything. Sent them like where you post on the Medium. So he follows all that. He just is not
Okay,
in the
cool.
group. Yeah.
Good. I think, I mean, we have parents and teachers and stuff, but I think in terms of students in the support group, I'm not sure if we go back farther than like class of 2005. We may, but yeah, that's a really interesting perspective from somebody way before me even. But this goes to show that this resonates with people more or less 10 years older than me and 10 years younger than me and current students. So like Cole Valley wants to say, oh, it's changed, it's gotten so much better. But a swath of like 20 years of students agree that it was like this for everybody.
Yeah, like I tried to talk to some people like after I graduated about what happened, because I remember the first day I went to college and I took I think it was like geology and chemistry, and they're talking about like Darwinism and all that. It randomly brought up, and my first reaction was to be like, "Oh no, that stuff's like fake. Like all that, the Big Bang and everything that has to do with that is just false." And then I realized when I started like actually learning about that, it felt like the first time kind of opened up my eyes to how sheltered I felt, and I felt I was way behind every other student in that class, just in general.
Yeah.
It was a shocker.
You realized it right away, though. You didn't go through a period of like, no, they're wrong, I need to convince them.
It probably took half the semester. And then I met a friend through that class, and we had a whole bunch of discussions about it. And he was just like, you got to have, open up your mind a little bit, read this, and then read creationalism, and, determine for yourself what you think could actually happen. And then by that, it kind of opened up my eyes to a lot of things. So,
I don't know a lot about the flat earth movement, but it just, as you were saying that stuff, it kind of like seems like these deniers, like conspiracy theory. It's almost like a conspiracy theory. It's like the people that want to deny that, that the earth is flat, they really think that, and it doesn't actually seem that different to me than this whole creationism argument, the 7-day thing. Yep. And then it's like, it's almost like they're like that, and then are they also going to be like 9/11 like deniers? There's all these people that like conspiracy theory everything. So it's kind of weird to think about putting those on the same plane, because I always thought like, no, Coal Valley's pretty sheltered and closed-minded, but they're not like crazy like flat earthers. But it actually kind of seems similar to me now.
Yeah, there's definitely some common things between the two, that's for sure. But
yeah. So let's go into your background. Give me your Coal Valley resume. How many years were you there? You said class of 2010. What kind of activities did you do while you were there? Basketball was one. So give me your experience, your bullet points.
So I started there in 6th grade, and then graduated there in 2010. In the beginning, just a little background is I went to a public school for a year, and then my parents tried to transfer me to Coal Valley, but they said their classes weren't challenging enough, so I had to go and repeat 6th grade. So technically I should have been in the 2009 class. So starting out like that, I felt judged in a way. Like the teachers were always like going slower for me and like pulling me out of the class, be like, are you sure you're getting all this information? Like, I know you did this. They gave us a whole background. So starting from 6th grade on, I always felt like, I don't know how to say, like it's kind of like
not smart.
Yeah. I was trying to think of another word, but I can't right now.
Eloquent, but yeah.
Yeah. Then instantly they always threw me in study hall classes that I really didn't need, and all the way through 7th through 12th, I had 1 or 2 study classes a semester, and I didn't even need it. I was kind of just messing around.
Why do you think they thought you needed it?
I had like the perception about me that I was kind of just, I was dumb. There's even a teacher that pretty much told me that in 9th grade.
What'd they say?
I don't remember the whole thing, but they were like, I know you're slower. I know you have a learning disability. So, we're going to have someone help you read tests and read everything out loud. And I was a freshman, so I was like, okay, like, I guess. And then I kind of just was like, I'm done trying to prove people wrong. So I kind of just went with it. And that kind of affected my grades and stuff as well, because I just didn't care, because I knew what they thought of me. And it was just kind of to the point where, like, and if I got like a B on a test, they were like praising me like it was a one of a kind type of thing. And
so weird. Well, I would have thought, at face value, it sounds weird, but I've heard enough of these stories now that I realize this is kind of a thing that they do. They kind of like decide for people, well, they need this kind of help, or they need this kind of like professional care, or they need this kind of medication. And then people are like, no, I don't need that. And they're like, shut up, we know better.
Yep. That's like, I even tried to go to the principal back then and be like, hey, is making me feel uncomfortable. Like, I know I'm not a genius, but I can do my own stuff. I think I had like a 3.5 at the end of my senior year, but like I
That's
wasn't
awesome.
dumb, but it's just I wish I pushed myself harder, but the whole like the way they treated me,
You're kind of being discouraged, like
yeah.
demotivated.
Yep. And I know I'm not the only person who felt that, because there's a couple people that were there with me that felt the exact same way. We talked to each other about it, but we just didn't know what to do. Um, so I felt like they limited me, and I didn't learn as much, and I didn't push myself as hard as I should have. And I felt like that because I felt like I was really behind. But
Hmm.
yeah. And
Did
then
that continue in college? Did you feel like that in the next setting, or were you like, oh, I'm as good as anybody else?
it took a year and a half for me to realize, like, my first year of college, I had like a 3.8 GPA, and I did that all by myself. So I was like, okay, maybe like I can start doing this. And then after that, I started believing in myself a little more, and actually pushing myself. Um, but yeah, it took a long time, and it had huge like mental effects, because like test in college, you don't have someone there. Like, you're doing it with everyone else in the classroom, and for the first couple tests, I froze, even though I knew the information. I just felt like I couldn't do it because I didn't have someone there kind of holding my hand through it. So
Hmm. That makes sense.
yeah.
So what else were you into at Quell Valley? Basketball.
Basketball was huge for me. And then I played a little bit of football, 7th, 8th grade. Um, didn't didn't really participate in too much. It was mostly just basketball, and um, played all the way to my junior year. I was going to play my senior year, but the coach came up to me a week before tryouts and pulled me aside and said, hey, just want to let you know, even if you try out, you're not going to make the team, so don't bother. And
That's
as a
kind of fucked.
yeah, like it fucked me up for years still. And if I still see the guy, I still get angry. I'm trying to just get over it. But I called my mom right after that. Like, I was in tears because that's all I knew was basketball. Because I loved it. And she went to the superintendent, um, and got really angry, like forced them to tell them what the reasons were. Um, and it came out because one of the other students, their parents donated a whole bunch of money to the school, and they wanted him to play on the team. Didn't have to play a lot of time. They just wanted him on the team. So I got kicked off the team. Like, I wasn't like
For
an
that
all-star.
kid?
What?
You got kicked off the team to make a spot for that rich
Mm-hmm.
the donors kid?
Mm-hmm. And they
They
told us
actually
straight up,
like admitted that?
yeah. Like,
Jeez.
that's what my mom told me after the whole thing. And my senior year, like, I was a wreck. Like, I didn't care. Like, and I already had like the perception of I was like the bad kid who didn't care. Like, I never fit in really with one group. But yeah, after they told her that, like, I was wow. And I'm still. I know it's been 8 years, 9 years, but I'm still frustrated with the whole thing.
Well, that's just so unfair.
Mm-hmm.
That's so corrupt.
Yeah, and it's what gets me the most. It's a Christian school. They're supposed to be, everyone has a fair chance, love, all that stuff. But it came down to who would donate the most money for the school to be able to keep it running, or to build the football field they have now, like whatever it may be. So that really opened my eyes a lot. And I felt like there was a lot of favoritism too with like that kind of stuff, especially basketball. Um,
Do you have other stories besides this one about favoritism?
um, so I watched yours and Stan's, and he hit a lot of those points, especially with like certain kids. Like I would lose time so the other kids could play because they had, the money, or the school's making sure they, had some playing time and all that. So it
So it seems like it always happened at your expense.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, I really didn't feel liked at all. Like I was always on the back end. Teachers always thought I was like the bad kid. Like I never did anything crazy to do that, but I felt like, and I really never fit in. And I had some men who's freshman at 8th, 9th, 10th to 11th grade was really rough for me.
Can you say that again? It broke up for a second.
Like I had issues with like depression really bad, and I'm like ADHD, like I couldn't sit still, like I was spacey all the time. So like depression for about 3 to 4 years was really bad, 8th to 11th grade. And it really came out when like my junior year, like I was to the point of like I couldn't talk to anyone about it, and I was actually considering to kill myself. Like I was ready to go, and I talked to a teacher about it. I think he was a history teacher, but he pretty much told me he'd pray for me, and if I did kill myself, there's no chance to go to heaven. I would just go to hell. So you need to reconsider it. So kind of like,
what a great reason to not do it.
Yeah, I just wanted someone to talk to, and what actually saved me was the nurse. I don't know if you had the same nurse I did, but she was amazing.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and she was the reason why somehow she found out from another student, like I was not in a good headspace. And I just looked depressed. So she pulled me into her office one day and just talked to me for about 2 or 3 hours and gave me, she gave me like an excuse and stuff just to talk to me. And she always, every day, like read me a verse, like the same verse every day, and just told me she was always there. So
what was the verse?
Jeremiah 21. Shoot. Jeremiah.
It's okay. Do you remember the gist?
It's like God has plans for you, no matter like what the trial or trivia, something like that. I can't remember. But I think it was
plans for you, plans to keep you like this, plans to keep you that. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it is either, but that rings a bell.
Yeah. And like, I had a lot of bad experiences, but she was one of the people that saved me and made the school experience just a little bit better. Like,
did she suggest medication or anything?
She suggested counseling, so I did do counseling for a little bit. But
did that help?
It did. Like, I have never been close to like that deep depression as I was then. And like I never told my parents because I didn't know how they would react. So I kind of kept a lot of stuff, but she just made a safe place. And
that's good.
Yeah. I haven't been able to thank her for a while, but I wish I could. Like there was a lot of bad at that school, but she was one of the best parts about it.
Good. You mentioned you were considered a bad kid.
Mm-hmm.
Why were you considered a bad kid?
Like I would mess around a lot in class. Wouldn't really pay attention to, a lot of times I wouldn't pay attention to what they were teaching. Like I tried to be the class clown. It didn't really work too well, but I just like to make people laugh. So I was that person, and I didn't really fit into a group of people. So I think it made the teachers not know how to deal with me exactly. So it really came out. So like the one thing I want to talk about with my sister is she got a lot of flack just for being my sister at that school. Oh, you're Zach Luce's sister, so you must, behave like him and stuff. Like, I'm trying to think of a specific examples, but like, okay, this could be considered, but like, there was some times where I just couldn't deal with the school, or like it was just a rough day, so I would find a way to call out and leave for the day. And I did that a lot my junior, being sick, not do homework a lot of the times because I didn't really have to. Sadly, I didn't do the homework, but since I played on the basketball team, like some teachers in like study hall said, you like, oh, you wouldn't have to do that. Like, you don't have to do that. Don't worry about it. So probably half of my assignments in certain classes I just never had to do if I missed. Because
would they give you 100 on it, or they just wouldn't count it towards your grade, or what?
I finished with a lot of B's, so I'm guessing like tests I would have to take, but homework they just give me like 80, 85, just kind of like a average number, so it didn't really stand out. But basketball was blowing up when I was, I think, a sophomore or junior. Like, varsity was going to state, like the JV teams were always winning. It just kind of became a huge deal in the school. So if you kind of played on the team and you were good, you got some of that perks to it.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good favoritism example.
Mm-hmm. And like, I wasn't the most liked person, but I still got some of those perks. Some people got it more than others. I was in a study hall and we were doing a test, and one person gave the student every single answer. He didn't even have to study. Like, they would read it and be like,
did that?
yeah, it's B, so it's this. Or, hey, write this down. Or do this. And a lot of them were parents from the students. So there's like teachers and there's be parents that would come in and help. So there was a lot of kids who just got freebies on tests. So
very I don't know what the right word for that is. Is that like incompetence or favoritism or corruption or special interest? I don't know what that is, but
yeah, it was. And I tried to kind of hide everything that happened. So like ever since you start bringing this stuff, there's like stories and like things I was randomly remember in school that I wanted to forget. And like it just keeps coming back. So
what's one of those things that you had forgotten but had come back?
There was a student, I think it was junior year in high school. I can't remember the exact time, but he came out gay. And
did he out himself, or did somebody out him? Or
I think I heard it from someone else. So I'm pretty sure he told like a friend, and a friend kind of exploded. And gossip in that school, you could say something by first period and everyone knows it by second. So, and then that's when it got really bad, and people were just, it was awful. Like, and sadly enough, like I was kind of part of it, because back in the day, like we're always taught how being gay is a sin and you can change it and pray the gay away, or go to a camp. I think that was suggested, like go to one of those camps. And that whole year, that kid was ridiculed, and I don't know how he survived that school year, honestly. And I didn't see any teachers go to, save him or try to stand up for him in classes when people were gossiping about it. Everyone was just kind of in on it. And it was like, I even said some things I probably shouldn't have, which I regret a lot. Like it's
Do you
hard
remember
to.
what you said?
Not exactly, but it's pretty much like gays should go to hell or something like that. It was pretty severe, and
Well, that's what they taught you.
yeah, it still affects me to this day, and like it. I just wish I was a little more open-minded and just accepted the kid for him, because I don't know, it could have made the world a difference for someone just to accept him for who he was, instead of just putting him on an island and everyone just, pointing fingers and saying everything. And like, I listened to Drew Woods and yours. I listened to all of them because it's super interesting. I love to hear the stories.
That's
And
dedication. There's a ton of them.
I was in that class. I didn't remember it till I heard him say it. I was in that class when the kid was like, kill all the, like, whatever. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like screaming it in the debates. Like, I remember that sitting there and being, oh my, in Bible class for the debate. Forgot about that. And
When you were, witnessing that, was it like, I agree, but you're going too far? Or was it like, no, this is wrong?
I agree, but you're going too far, honestly, back then. My mindset there was like, gay is like, it's a thing you can just get rid of. So why pretend to be something you're not, kind of thing.
Yeah, like why are you so stubborn?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We need to beat this out of you. The fact that you just aren't letting it go is just like an affront to all of us.
Mm-hmm. And like, sadly enough, like my senior year, one of my best friends that year came to me and came out and was like, well, like, I like girls. And I kind of just shunned her right away. And it's because your mindset with that school, they drill it in your head that if you're Christian, you can kind of judge people, and if they're not think the way you do, you just get rid of them in a second. Like, you just throw them away instead of trying to help. And that still affects me to this day. We don't really talk anymore, and it sucks just because I just kind of shunned them instead of helping them through it all. So, but and I think another story, what was it? I do the whole senior prank parts. I think it was the 2009 class where they
Tell me that story. I can't remember if that's really been covered in one of these interviews or not.
So we showed up to school, and I guess the secretary there had a fear of balloons, which no one knew of. So they filled up the whole, like where the principal and stuff, that whole office full of balloons. Put little cups of water through every single level, and filled the floor with it. They flipped over desks and like rearranged rooms. Can't remember if there was anything. I don't know if they did like stuff on the toilet seats, like saran wrap in the urinals and on the toilet seats. I'm pretty sure that was them. And it was just kind of like a fun little senior prank. And over the intercom, like I remember it, they asked all the seniors to go to the, common area to go have a talk. And then you see them leave. It was probably like an hour or so. You see them leave and they're just distraught, heads down. Like, some of them were crying. Like, something they thought would be so much fun, it turned into like them getting their ass reamed for however long. And I remember talking to one of the seniors, and he was like, the first thing he said was like, they might take our diplomacy away because we did the prank. And during chapel, I think it was the next chapel, they had to apologize for doing what they did because it put teachers behind. And It was finals week, and it was just like a fun little prank. They didn't do anything terrible. Like, it probably took an hour to clean everything up. But seeing their faces, like, a lot of them were crying and distraught. Like, it was, and
It's such an overreaction.
yeah. And I know they're supposed to be leaders of the school and stuff, but we're still kids. That's the thing that got me, is we're kids. We want to have fun. We're gonna do stupid things. Like,
Well, senior pranks are like, something that's like kind of part of the high school experience. So you should see this coming and be like ready for whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they should have been. And for our senior prank, we couldn't even really do one because of that. Yeah, we couldn't even do one there. We did like a senior overnight, I think, at like the YMCA, but we couldn't do any pranks. Like, they warned us. I think it is cars in front of every single entrance so no one could get through. But that was about the most we did, because we were so scared to lose our diplomacy and everything we've worked for gone in a second. So I feel like, honestly, I feel like fear in that school played a lot, because a lot of students didn't stand up even if they didn't agree, because it was like the fear of, having your parents come in there and like you just get expelled instantly.
Would you say that it was kind of like our way or the highway there?
Oh yeah. There was one Bible class that a student was speaking up about, wanting to know the other side. So we talked about the 7 days, on the seventh day, everything, but he was like, but what about this? And the teacher just wouldn't budge, like wouldn't even ask him. He got sent to the principal's office. Like, it became a pretty big deal. So they definitely made sure that you knew it was either you followed their way or you're going to be kicked out and shunned. And we're kids, so we don't want to lose our friends. We don't want to lose what we, used to every day. So it kind of kept
Do you think that, would you say that bred a culture of not thinking critically?
Oh yeah. Like, pretty much we didn't think, or at least my example is, we didn't think for ourselves. We just kind of listened, and like the military, like, y'all go do this. We just went to go do it. We didn't really think of why or what's the purpose or if this is even right. It was kind of do it and that's it. And like, even our textbooks and stuff that we had, they didn't even mention, and if they did mention like Darwinism or anything, it kind of just bashed them a little bit. Like, pretty much, these guys are stupid. Here's like 3 sentences on it, and then you move on to whatever it was. So even learning about anything besides, what they believe in, like the fundamentalist religion or whatever it's called, I can't exactly remember, but yeah, they were strict and didn't want you to free think too much, or you'd get sent to the principal's office and you have no idea. So,
wow. You got anything else you wanted to mention?
I have some stuff written down. One sec.
Do you need to get something on your phone? Are you getting some vibrations?
Yeah, I thought I turned it on silent. My bad. It's just work stuff, but it's all good. So bullying was a huge thing. I just want to go over that a little bit. Like, I was bullied. There was a lot of other students bullied. Like, I was even part of the bullying sometimes, because I just wanted to fit in. But there was one incident where there was someone in my class. He was getting bullied so bad.
Like what? What was happening?
So this kid was just like making fun of him, calling him stupid, like doing whatever to get under the skin, like, getting in his face, yelling at him, like in a class, like in a study hall class. And it came to the point where this kid, the guy in my grade who was getting bullied, was writing stuff on the whiteboard about how he was going to kill this guy. Like it got to the point where the bullying was so bad, he was kind of meant like a mental snap. And there was like, he drew pictures of like, hanging this kid and like everything. And he tried, like, I remember me and a couple students tried, but this kid was just going off, and there was no one who could control him. Like the teachers didn't even know what to do.
What do you mean you guys tried?
Like, hey, knock it off. That's not cool. Stop it. You don't need to call him.
To the bully?
To the bully. And it didn't work. And we should have done more for it. Maybe go to like the principal or something. But we tried, I think, almost every day for like a week or two to tell him to knock it off. But he would like come in, and he wasn't even part of the class, I don't think, the lower classmen, and was just reaming him. Like, I think he even called him like a dumbass every day, like a crazy psychopath. And he was a little different, but like he was a good guy, honestly. But it was to the point where he started writing stuff, and like the teacher down there didn't even know what to do. I don't know if she reported it or what happened after that, but it just got to the point. And I feel like they kind of, turned the cold shoulder sometimes, or just looked away when bullying was going on.
They're like, there's not like, well, Coal Valley lacks a lot of policies, so that everything's are kind of like case by case. So if they don't know what to do, maybe they're like, I don't know what to do, so I'm going to pretend I didn't see it, and then I don't have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Versus like, if X happens, you do Y kind of thing.
Yeah, and it really showed. Like, there was times where I got bullied to the point where I snapped. And I had anger issues as a kid. I went to counseling and got that all figured out. But like, I was bullied by someone in my class so bad one day, I tried to find him after school because like I just snapped and I was like, I'm going to beat you up. Like, you better watch out kind of thing. So I remember 15, 20 minutes, like, and people were like cheering me on. There's a couple people like, go find him, let's do this. And spent like 20 minutes finding this guy. Yeah. And luckily, nothing happened. But like, even talking to people, like, teachers knew what was going on. Like, they had to, because there was probably 4 or 5 cheering me on. Like, go beat him up, like yelling down the third story hallway. Like, I don't see why not a teacher wouldn't see that or try to stop it. But yeah, like, it just, he was a rich kid. Like, he had some money, so it kind of made me feel like nothing's gonna happen.
Is this the same rich kid on the basketball team?
Yes, I had a lot of issues with that. One other story I can remember is he stole all cell phones from people's backpacks, lockers, and threw them on. Yeah, and this is 8th grade, I believe, 8th or 9th. And then we had all the flip phones. So he'd like shove them up on the boards and call them, or have other people call them. And it lasted days, like a day or two, before people actually started like figuring out, because people just lost their phones and didn't know what to do. And just calling with like ringtones and stuff throughout the class, and nothing really happened when he got caught. He's kind of showed back up when he got in trouble.
Do you think it was because of the donations? He's like untouchable?
Yeah, that's what it felt like. But if I did the same thing, I felt like I would be suspended or expelled, which I was my 7th grade for something I didn't do, and they didn't believe me at all. So like, I just kind of got falsely accused of something. And
what was going on?
I got accused of threatening to stab someone. It was extreme, and it wasn't the case at all. And I begged the principal to believe me. I remember being in there like crying and shaking because I had no idea. I was scared for my life what would happen. They even like threatened the cops, and I think there was a cop there actually waiting just outside just in case if anything happened. And begged them to believe me because I would not do that. Like there was no way, like I didn't say it. And there was even students that, was a witness to it that never were even in the class or were even there. So I kind of felt like I was pinned against a wall. And I'm pretty sure that's where like the bad kid vibe thing came with too. But
so you think that you just had a
really,
like they thought the story fit your profile, so they didn't listen? They're just like,
and if anyone else was there, like you could tell I was telling the truth. Like I was panicked because I thought my life was going to end. Like the worst case scenario, I was and I remember my mom coming in, and my mom and dad picked me up, and I pretty much had like a 5-day weekend. Like they know I didn't do it, so that was nice. But no one believed me, and after I came back, I remember the gossiping was insane. Like I felt like I had no friends. Everyone judged me or looked at me differently because I was accused of something I didn't do. And that took a while for me to get over.
was this another like influential kid that was like had a different story than you had, or what was the opposition? Like who were they believing if they weren't believing you?
I wouldn't say these people had money. It wasn't like the same kid or same situation with money. They had bigger group of friends, and they all believed them and went in to tell a story when they weren't even there. And that's what kind of got me. Like cliques in that school were insane.
That's kind of like bullying, actually. False witness for your buddy at somebody else's expense.
Yeah, and it was rough because it felt like for a couple of years like no one really thought of me besides of what I was accused of. Like I was a scary guy. Don't get him mad, kind of leave him alone. So it affected me pretty bad. And I think that's really like when the depression started to hit, thinking about it now, is after all that.
Was the depression something that I'm not very knowledgeable on the subject, but like was it some of this stuff? Was it a chemical thing, or was it like a trauma related or combination? Like when you, it sounds like it sounds like you've gotten this under control to some degree. Was that through medication or through therapy or?
I never took medication for it. Okay. So it was more of therapy. And I think it could have been like the trauma of stuff and like how I was treated at school that kind of led me down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Down that road. But.
Gotcha. Did you have anything else on your list?
No, that was my last thing. So
that's great. Okay, last few questions. If the Cole Valley administration watched this video, what message do you have for them?
Honestly,
you knew this was coming if you've watched all the videos.
Yes. Honestly, they need to pay more attention to the students mentally, especially if someone comes to them for depression or anxiety and they're not doing well, they come to you. We need to get some sort of program in place that will help those students. Bullying, I'm not sure how bad it is there, but if a teacher sees something or hears something in the hallway, they just need to stop it, get it under control. They need just to have better policies in place, honestly. If this happens, then do B, or if this happens, do C, because it leaves scars on people and it doesn't prepare them for the real world. Also, I know we didn't talk about this a lot, but education. Don't push the Bible and religion so much, even though I know it's a Christian school, but try to have open debates about things, why we believe this, and here's their theory about it. So, like, what do you think? Open up their mind and it's like get them prepared, because it was a shocker in college, not knowing any of that stuff. Like, be more open with discussions and teaching them different sides of the debate instead of just one.
Yeah. Okay. And your message to prospective parents?
I've been thinking about this. Honestly, pay attention. If something happens, like, pay attention to your kids, how they're reacting to things. And if like they see something, they should go to the administration and try to get it, taken care of. I don't want to destroy the school. That's not my point in all this. I just feel like there's big need to do as much as they can. So if they see something, report it, and we could start from there. We just have to start from somewhere to, hopefully the end result is to fix a lot of the issues that we all been through. So.
Yep. All right. And your message to current students that may be watching this?
It honestly gets better. Like, it might be rough now, but when you hit college and everything like that, it just gets better. Also, stand up for someone when you see them getting bullied or picked on, or, someone who wants to be themselves and comes out. Like, support them, love them. And the big thing is, like, the students there just need to stick together and support each other, because that's the only way change is going to happen. But yeah, just know everything will get better, and you're heard clearly, because there's 153 people in your group. Like, there's going to be some change happening one way or another. So just keep pushing through it.
Yep. Great. Well, thanks a ton, Zach. Thanks for offering up your time and telling your stories. I think they're really helpful.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Talk to you later.
See ya.
Bye.